Welcome to the Your Leadership Legacy podcast. My name is Tina Paulus-Kraus, and I'm so excited to bring you this next podcast dedicated to you high performers out there who want to reinvent yourself, reinvent your business, maybe your career, all of it. This podcast is all about being dedicated to transformation and being the best possible leader of yourself and others that you can be in order to create a legacy that lives on. Welcome to Your Leadership Legacy. My name is Tina Paulus-Kraus. I am the founder and CEO of True You Teams. And here we go. Hey, everyone. Welcome back. We are at the top of the hour with our second interview. I'm excited to have Johanne O'Halleron with us today. Hey, Johanne, how are you?
Tina, I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. I am really excited about our conversation, and here's why. I have watched you, especially on LinkedIn, over, I don't know, maybe the last 6 months, 7 months or so, and you are on fire. You are literally on fire in your business, in life, and everything else. So I want to talk about that today because we're talking about cultivating EQ in the workplace, and that's your specialty. But first, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who Johanne is.
Oh, well, thank you for that, by the way. Thank you. That means a lot. So I'm Johanne O'Halleron, and as you can hear from my accent, I'm in Ireland. And I'm a business mentor for coaches, and my stand in the world is really for women to be able to create abundance, freedom, and unconditional love through entrepreneurship. And from my own transformational journey, I've been able to see what's possible, which is why I'm such a stand for this. And normally I have a picture behind me which shows my stand. If you follow me at all on social media, you'll see I share it all the time. But outside of business, I'm also a mum, and I'm a granny to two gorgeous grandsons who I love and adore and talk about all the time, which are so squishy.
That grandparent thing, it's like a special thing. I don't think you can ever be fully prepared for it.
No, you can't. I was literally talking to them before we came on here, and they fill me with so much love and joy. They're just so happy.
I know, right? It's so amazing. So you are all the things, a massive business coach and stand for women, and it's the reason why we've asked you to be on our board of advisors for the Global Leadership Academy. Because as we move forward and add programs and really build what our vision is, it's big, and we've got a lot of things going on. So I would love for you to talk about the work that you do and how you see that work really fitting into the Global Leadership Academy and where we're going with that vision.
Yeah, well, I think the work that I do is really about supporting businesses to get off the ground, because I know for me, like what my experience was, there wasn't that like real supportive place to actually be able to develop and to know what it looks like from the inside out to be able to create the business that you want. And it honestly wasn't until I started my own transformational journey that I realized where the disconnect actually was. And this is coming from somebody who was in human resources for 17 years. So like coaching, transformation, leadership, I was surrounded by it and I still didn't get it. And I think it's that all-encompassing approach is like super important. And it's where there's a real gap right now in the world, because like you can even see it in schools. You can see it in the workplace. I saw it in the workplace. And then you can really see it in businesses, because what I see a lot of is the amount of women that come to me that have done mindset work and are still in the exact same place that they were. And it's that like embodiment piece of, that's great, you did the mindset work, but how are you being the mindset work is a big piece of what we do. Like strategy is only 5% of it. Right. Like it's your being when you're actually delivering it that really matters. But I just see it everywhere. Just that's what's always in the gap.
Right. And what I hear you saying is theory versus embodiment, right? We can go to a class, we can read a book, we can go to a workshop, go to a convention or a conference, right? And we're learning theory. We're learning the what, but then I think people find their way to this work because they see the gap, right? Yeah. Like it's the same thing for me. I literally walked away from corporate because I saw the gap, and this transformational work allows me to actually embody who it is that I say I want to be. So how do you support women that come to you that are in that part? They're like, no, I've done the work. Because I hear that a lot too. No, I've done the work. How do you support them to really start to embody new ways of being that will work for them?
Yeah, I love that. I've done the work. We're never done. There's no it.
We're never done.
That was used to be. It's like, but I've done it. Why is it not working? Right. For us, where we start is who you actually get to be to deliver on the strategy that you want. So it's looking at, what's the best version of yourself that you see yourself in, what right now is working for you, but what right now is not working for you, and how you're showing up so that you can connect with who you are. Because I think there's that disconnect too of like, we know what we want to be, but it comes back to the embodiment piece. Are we actually doing it? So it starts there. It's like, well, what do you want? Are you willing to show up as the person that's going to get there? And if you don't know how, great. Let's have a look at that. Let's really look at what that looks like for you, because it's different pieces for different people. It's never the same.
Right, right. What are some of the common themes that you see?
Do you know what it is? Shame and judgment is such a huge one. Oh my goodness. I don't think a day goes by where I don't talk about it. And the embarrassment that comes with that, from being afraid to say out what you're feeling, where it's come from, and what you think other people are going to say about that. It's incredible how much that holds you down. But as well, with the fact there's so much negativity in the world, and like you see it everywhere. Like if you're on TikTok at all, if you're on any sort of social media, you look at the news, it's like, who can I blame today? Who is at fault? And let me attack them and bring them down in the worst way possible. And when that's what we're living in, like in the world today, it's going to affect who we are, and we're going to completely operate from a place of shame and judgment, because we don't see that there's something else. Because I did it,
right?
Like until I came into this work, and like full disclosure, but it's the one thing that shame and embarrassment and judgment is the biggest thing, which then culminates into, I don't know if I can do this. Who am I to do this? Should I do this?
I want to unpack that. Where does that shame and blame and guilt and all that stuff come from?
Well, like we know it comes from our childhood, but I think it comes back to more as like, when you say what you want, are you pushed down for it? Are you ridiculed for it? And how often does that happen at home, in school, even when you're in a job? Like I know even when I was in my corporate job, it was the same. Say what you want for the vision for the company, but then you're wrong because it doesn't work. So, and then something doesn't work, or the results don't happen the way you want them to, but you're wrong. Let me judge you, and let me like manipulate all the ways that you're wrong to make you feel bad about it, so that you don't embarrass me and don't do it again. So there's a complete lack of responsibility on people's parts, how they're choosing to show up and the choices that are being made.
Right. It's this ownership is what I'm hearing you say too, the ownership of it. I know for me, I would, like back in the day, I would say that my kids and my family were the most important thing to me. Like you asked me what's more, my family, my kids, of course they are, but then I'd turn around and work 100 hours a week. So who I said I wanted to be and how I was showing up were not in alignment. And so, And so how do you know, it was like this big, so when I say like a wake up call, it's that moment that we start realizing, oh, I own that. Oh, that's on me. So when you get to that point with your coaching clients, how do you really support them? Because once we know, right? Like I've been pretending not to know for a million years, but now I know. I can't unknow that. So how do you coach people in that moment to now go out and embody it and change their way of being?
Yeah, well, the practices that we use are actually embracing the emotions that you feel, so that you're not holding that shame and judgment. It's that vulnerability piece. And like the one thing that I'll always say is speak it out so it doesn't consume you, because if you let it consume you, it takes over everywhere and you're not going to show up nice in any parts of your life. But it does start about speaking it out. I always use 3 A's. We're great at bringing awareness to something, but are we willing to accept it? Because that's usually where the breakthroughs happen, is around acceptance. And half the time we're not, because of the shame, judgment, guilt, and embarrassment. And then from there, it's connecting with, who are you actually being to create whatever it is that you want in whatever the relationships are, because everything is always relationships. This was a big, I always remember this breakthrough moment for me. It was like, oh my goodness, it's relationships. Everything is relationships. It's not about a number on a page. It's not about the thing you do. It's relationships. Always remember when that clicked with me. So it's connecting that for them. And then from that place, then what action you're going to take, because it's always action is the last part. But if you don't speak out what you're feeling and accept that you've been holding on to that as your truth up until now, you can't choose differently.
Right. Exactly. That awareness piece is huge. Talk about where you were just going with that moment that you realize it, right? That moment that I realize it. And now I get to turn that around and start moving forward with it. What are some of the tools that you support people with to like really start changing that up?
So one of the things that I actually love is writing out like a script of who you are. I love scripting. Oh my goodness, I love scripting. So it's scripting out who you are, not who you want to be, because that's not a real thing, but it's who you actually are at your core. What are all the things that you've been pushing down? Which for most of us is like, I'm really loving, I'm kind, I give a shit. I care about people. It's like who you really are at your very, very core. Write that out. And then on another piece of paper, write out how you're operating right now so you can see where the disconnect is. Take out all the pieces that aren't working, because they're all your shoulds, your coulds, all those pieces. Take out all those things. And I love to get people to put them into a mind your own business box, so that it's just a concept of moving it out, just to move it out and put it in there, because it isn't your business. It's a story that you no longer need to hold on to, or, a reason of validation. You don't need that anymore. So move it out, and then keep the script that is you, who you truly are, and read it every day. Like what I love to do as well, and love to get clients to do is actually record it on their phone and listen when they're out for a walk.
Right.
But that they're starting to embody it, because you're walking into it. I always see it as like you're walking into being who you are, rather than trying to recreate somebody that you're not.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about relationships, and it's so like, that relationship starts with you. So when we talk about 10-10 relationships, and everything revolves around relationships, which is what you were talking about earlier, what does that 10-10 relationship look like? Two ways, starting with me, and then what does that 10-10 relationship look like with others?
Well, like with ourselves, it's the pure embodied trust and surrender that everything that we do, everything that we say is exactly how it's meant to be. That, I think trust is such a big thing, isn't it? Like
Really is.
Such a big thing to know. And particularly like for anyone that suffered like really badly with self-doubt or that people please, and it's like, how do you know you're making the right decision? And it's when you choose to trust yourself and surrender that you do know, like you know all in here. That's when you create that 10-10 relationship, because you're trusting yourself to show up for you first before anybody else. And it's not selfish to do it. And this is coming from somebody who was like, do everything that I say, just don't do what I do. Please don't do what I do.
I hear you. I feel that. What about the relationship with others? What does it look like if you and I have a 10-10 relationship? What does that look like? What does it mean?
Do you know what? For me, it's coming from a place of pure unconditional love and not being attached to how our relationship is meant to look. That I get to show up for you how I would love you to show up for me, and from a true place of love, not from that judgment, rejection. But I think it's also like, even if I think of my other half, Robert, it's like, we're going to have disagreements. But when we do, am I coming at him from a blame or shame? Or like, here's why you're wrong and here's why I'm right? Or is it, okay, here's what I get to own in the part of what I created in this, and then come at it from a loving point of view, so that we can be together on the same pathway.
Has it always been like that with you guys, or did the work support you to really up level your marriage? You laugh.
Well, here's a fun fact, Tina. I don't know if you know this, actually. When I originally went into the transformational work, it's because I knew I didn't know how to have any sort of healthy relationships at all. Like they were toxic in work, they were toxic at home, and I was very much in a victim state mentality. So I actually originally went into transformational work to figure out how to have relationships. And I met Robert literally the Friday before I started the transformational work. And Robert has also gone through transformational leadership too. So I think it's very beneficial for us, because we're speaking the same language, and we can shift pretty quickly. If when hurt does happen, you can shift pretty quickly. So I think we have been so incredibly blessed to have been on this journey together, and that's how this came to be. But also just shows you, like, when you're embodying it, you can create that, versus, if I had looked at relationships before, they were like, this is why you're wrong, and let me figure out how I'm going to manipulate this situation so I can be right and feel safe. It's horrible when you're operating like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a life of suffering, right? So it's this choice between, I can choose to live in this suffering where it feels bad and horrible and heavy, or I can choose to pull out whatever tool I need to really move into joy, right? Like move into joy and move into those 10-10 relationships. My marriage with my husband, I mean, we have both also been through the work, and it up-leveled our marriage like nobody's business. Doesn't mean that it's perfect, right? So like, we know this, right? It's totally not perfect, and we can get through stuff. Like I am confident we can get through anything. So to me, when I think about 10-10 relationships, it's about you and I, we can get through anything. We can go through anything that we need to go through. And at the other end of it, on the other side, we still have a relationship intact. So it's that unconditional, like giving people the permission and the okay to fail. Like, it's okay if we fail, we get to just learn from it and move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it really brings me to my next question to you, because especially in corporate, in the workplace, like there's this there's this stigma that failure is bad, that failure is, all the things. And in fact, failure is what propels us forward to grow. So how do you work through that with some of the clients that you have? Because that mindset it's heavy, it's out there.
Well, sure, I was in it for 17 years.
Me too.
Like being in human resources, it was like, I always say I went into human resources because I believed that there was an opportunity to be able to create, change for people.
Right.
And I found it to be very, very different because not everybody is on the same page and coming at it from the same point of view. But I make that whole failure piece, like it's, I've worked in like real heavy male dominated environments where it's that dog eat dog world. Like, it's like, who are you going to step over? And it comes back to the same thing. It's like, you can choose what you choose. So what are you choosing in any given moment? It's like, am I choosing to, come into a company where I want to openly make change and I'm going to work together with people collaboratively to be able to do it? Or am I coming into a company to give out and do nothing else but give out? Because we have a choice in any given moment. But I think for anyone who's in corporate, it comes back to, what is your vision for doing this job? What is your vision for being in that company? And are you willing to work together collaboratively to move it forward? Because like, I can give you like my own personal experiences where it's worked really, really well is when top down, bottom up are all on the same page. And I've seen that working so well. Like, I've worked in companies where that's incredible. Like, everybody is, it's just harmonious and it's a nice environment to be in. And then I've also worked, the flip side of it is where it's like, do as I say. I have no intention of doing it, but do as I say. I think the intentionality piece is really important, and it doesn't have to be that way.
No.
We can choose it to be different, and there's opportunities for growth everywhere. But I think, for any clients that are in that, it's always a case of, are you connected to your vision and their vision, and are they aligned? Because if they're not, that's feedback for where you get to go.
Yeah. Right. It's feedback, and it's the feedback for why you're feeling like you're feeling. Because chances are they're frustrated, they're burnt out. Like, there's all these symptoms that come from not being aligned to the work that I do every single day, and it's just been that way for so long in the workplace. And so talk about the opportunity that you see as we really move forward with, imagine a whole world that has done the work in corporate. What does that look like inside corporate?
That would be so amazing. Like, I think companies are like, look, put it this way. Again, I'm speaking from the experiences I've had. I think there's such a beautiful opportunity to actually grow in every which way for companies. And I think there's some companies that are being stifled because there's an undercurrent of an agenda that's not being spoken about, which creates all that shame, guilt, embarrassment. Versus the opportunity here is actually expansion happens when you allow people to expand. And it doesn't mean that they're not going to follow through on the vision, but you don't have to control them. And I was a controller. I tried to control it all. But it's an opportunity for expansion. It can really, really grow. When companies collectively come together and genuinely are focused on, the same mission and vision, because it doesn't matter what the companies are, if it's electrics, if it's cars, if it's, hospitals, there's a vision for those companies. And the people in it want to be aligned with those visions. People don't go to work to do a bad job. They don't go to work to go, how can I mess up somebody's day? It's like, how can I do the best job that I can? And there's a gap there that this is such a beautiful opportunity to be able to close that gap and really have things working so seamlessly, because it's not just a piece of paper. It's not just like a presentation on a slide. It's actually everybody connecting with who they are and how they're showing up, and it continuing on. Because I've seen it where it's happened in the moment and then it's forgotten about. But the difference with this
is sustainability.
Which is a big deal.
Yeah, that sustainability is huge. And I agree that it really requires everyone in the whole organization to be open to moving in that direction. So the work is so important, and I want to honor you and thank you for being a part of the board of advisors for the Global Leadership Academy, because as we sat and thought about, who would be really great fits, your name obviously came up. You're just doing so many amazing things. So I would love for you to talk about, what is your vision as you come into the Global Leadership Academy? What is your vision for our future and for where we're going?
Yeah, I think it's funny, when I started the whole transformational work back in 2021, it was like that transform world piece really stuck to me. And from an international point of view, I think there's so much scope to be able to bring this work really into the world, like really, really embedded into the world. And Thank you for asking me. I was so honored. I got so excited because I can see here in Ireland where there's massive gaps and there's opportunities to be able to bring this in and really make a difference. And I can see it then in other countries too. So for me, it's like the seed to flower, like the fact that it's about the kiddos. Because by the way, Robert's son has done transformational leadership. So as a family,
Yes.
it's I'm all about it. So it's like, bringing the kiddies all the way through. Like, where else do you get that? Where it starts with the children, who are the leaders of the future, all the
Right.
way through into individuals and in the workplace. It's the full circle.
It
Like,
really is.
this is what it's going to take in the world for us all to come together to create that transformation, is that full circle. We have a choice to either stay on the wheel that we're on or move off it. And I think to be able to move off it into this place where it just makes all the difference to like your life, but the people's lives around you too. Like it
The
doesn't matter.
ripple.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what your job is or what you do. We've seen it transform like so many different types of lives in multiple different ways in various different avenues. So for me, it's the global scale of this and the ability to actually truly transform the world, like starting one life at a time, is just amazing.
Yeah, it's big work. It's really, really big work. It's deep work. It's why we call the first phase inner works. So, so I want to thank you for being on. Where can people find you?
Come over and follow me on LinkedIn. I love having the chats on LinkedIn, and I do free trainings on there every week.
Yeah.
So especially my name, Johanne O'Halleron. Come find me, come hang out, come say hi.
Yeah, Joan, you are definitely a voice, a powerful voice on LinkedIn, and I see you out there all the time. So thank you for that, for spreading your love and your joy and all your expertise. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you. I love you.
Yes, I love you too. Thank you for being on. Thank you for being a part of what we're doing. It matters. It means a lot. And we're just super grateful to have you on board.
Oh, I'm so happy you're doing this. I just think this is gold, and it's stuff people need to pay attention to because it matters.
Yep. It's what's going to change the world. I am definitely for sure about that. So thank you so much for being on. Everyone, go find Joanne, follow her. She's a force to be reckoned with, powerful beyond measure. So thank you so much for being on. We'll see you next time. We're back at the top of the hour. See you, everyone. Thank you. Bye.
My name is Tina Paulus-Kraus, and I thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. Check out our programs and events at trueyouteams.com. And until next time, make it an amazing day.